Interesting. Very interesting. On the topic of sizes then, one of the big things in men is penis size. And one of the big questions men often ask is there ways to increase my penis size? There's in fact a whole industry around penis size, increasing pumps and all kinds of different things. Is it possible to increase one's penis size?
Yeah, so it is. In terms of looking at the evidence, the safest and most reliable way is using a traction device. And these are devices that are made for essentially for penile lengthening, but they're also made for men who have something called Peyronie's disease, where they may develop a plaque on their penis and a curvature. And so there's one device that's actually made that bends away from the plaque to help sort of break down that plaque. So there are two uses for it, but essentially, these devices are just like stretching the tissue over time. And so the original traction devices that were studied, you would have to use them for 6 to 8 hours a day for several months to see a 2 centimeter increase in length. Now, that may be enough for some people. They were like, yes, I definitely want that. And some people are like, you know what? It may or may not. I mean, 2 centimeters is the average. Some are going to be less, right? So it's sort of, do you have the time to do that? Do you want to do that? But now there are sort of newer devices where they've studied them and used them like twice a day for 30 minutes, and they've seen some increase in penile length. They're generally pretty safe. It's more about, you might have some bruising from just putting the traction device on. And as long as you follow the instructions, you're probably not going to hurt yourself.
Is that a penis pump?
No, pumps are different. So pumps have not been shown to increase penile length. What a pump is, essentially it's got a cylinder that you put your penis into, and it uses sort of vacuum technology to sort of suck blood into the tissues. And then you put, if you're having issues with erectile function, you would then put a ring at the base of the penis to maintain the erection. These don't help with length. They've looked at them in those cases. They've also looked at surgeries and different types of things to increase penile length. And ultimately, many of them either have a very high complication rate, or risks that I would say are probably not advisable for most people. I think that in terms of penile lengthening, people are always like, why would you want to do that? Why? A lot of people will sort of poo-poo people who want to change the way their penis looks. And I've sort of evolved in my thinking and saying, well, you know what? This is a big part of a man's identity and how he feels about himself. And I wish we had something that was safe and easy for men to do, like we have breast implants, but we're not there yet, right? And so I just want people to be safe in terms of realizing what our limitations are at this time, and things may change over, as people become more interested in this area.
Porn, the role it's played in our perception of what a normal sized penis is. Do you know any data on how big people think a penis should be versus how big the penises actually are?
Yeah. So most people think it should be about 6 inches. So like we said, the average is around 5.1 to 5.3 inches. And so when you look at the data in terms of what people think it should be, men think it should be about 6 inches. In terms of women, where we found the data about what they prefer is sort of interesting. So now that we're having more surgeries for trans men, one of the surgeries that we do is a neophallus, is we create a new phallus. And one of the types of surgeries we do is we use a forearm flap. And so it can be very, very long and very, very girthy. And in fact, they were doing these surgeries and they realized that some people were actually unable to have sex with it because it was too girthy. So they wanted to then look at how do we determine the right size and length and girth of this neophallus so that they can then have sex with it. So what they did was they looked at the top 5 to 10 sex aids or toys that women are purchasing online. And they, you can imagine that when you think of a dildo, they can go from one, all the way to like the largest thing you've ever seen and the girthiest thing you've ever seen to like a normal size. And so when you have the option to pick as many as you want, right? What do you pick? And so what they found was that women tend to pick the length of about 6 inches. But as you know, you're not putting the whole device in. There has to be a handle or something. So it's probably around what the normal size is. And the girth was also around the average girth of the male penis. And so generally speaking, women tend to want what is average or around average, right? And interestingly, there's a product that is available called Onut. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but essentially you for women who have pain with penetration with men who are too well endowed, the men actually wears it so that the entire phallus doesn't go in during sexual intercourse, but it's more comfortable for the partner. So we know that sometimes it can be really uncomfortable if it's too well endowed. And so I think ultimately, while I understand that pornography has made people really self-conscious about the length of their penis, and I'm really sad about that, because I think as we've talked about earlier, clitoral stimulation is the easiest way for women to climax, and you don't need penetration for that. So in order to have pleasure and give pleasure, you don't need a large penis. And in fact, some women may not even care what size your penis is. It's more of a societal thing that we talk about, right? Women joke about it. Women talk about it. I mean, you can't go, even I've accidentally made comments where I've been like, oh, that's great that like he has a large penis. And like, well, I can't believe I just said that. Like I'll say it and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe that came out of my mouth of all people. And I think it's just so ingrained in our brain to be like, oh, like to celebrate really well endowed organs, when in reality, it's not necessary and sometimes even painful.
Will my penis get smaller as I age?
So not if you are healthy. So in terms of how do we maintain our penile health, right? Your body does a really good job of trying to maintain penile health, because over the course of a nighttime, men will get 5 to 6 erections, 3 to 6 erections over the course of the night. And that will happen whether you have a sexual dream or not, whether you are sleeping in a certain way or not. It's because your body is sort of giving blood flow to the area periodically through the night. Whether you're having sex, whether you're not, you're getting good oxygenated blood flow to the penis. Now, if you develop other conditions where you cannot get blood flow to the penis, like you get high blood pressure, you get diabetes, you get heart disease, and those arteries start getting narrowed, and then you stop getting nighttime erections and you start having difficulty getting erections, over time, the tissues can change and they can become what we call fibrotic, and they can become a little less spongy and less elastic. And so in those cases, you can see a little bit of shortening. Now, people will also see shortening because they gain weight over the course of their lifetime. And as you gain weight, the penis is not shrinking, but the fat on the mons, or the area right above the penis, is sort of getting larger and obscuring how much penis length there is.
There's one of the myths around penis size is that, if I have big hands, because, these aren't small hands. If I have big hands, then I have a big penis. Or if I have big feet, then I have a big penis. Is there data to support this idea that the length of any part of my body is correlated to my penis size?
Yeah, there's one study. It's a Japanese study where they looked at only Japanese men. There are some limitations, but essentially they measured all these body parts and penile length. And what they found was that nose length was correlated with penile length, not hand length or foot length.
So how do I increase the length of my nose?
Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting. Again, nothing you can control. These things are pre-genetically determined to some degree. And in fact, we talked about some trends. And while we've seen sperm quality change over the last 50 years, we've also seen penile length change average over I don't know the exact number, but 50 years. And they've actually seen penile length is increasing. And they think that this is because the onset of puberty is changing and boys are getting exposed to factors that are making them go through puberty earlier, and hence they're getting more exposure to testosterone and they're developing longer penises. So sort of interesting theoretical thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but sort of what the theory is.
Yeah, I actually read about that study. It says that a study shows that men's average erect penis size has increased over the last 29 years from 4.8 inches to 6 inches.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty dramatic.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Wait another 29 years. You could be Jesus Christ.
But I don't think women's vaginal lengths are changing. So I don't know what that means.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when we talked about the vaginal length enlarging as someone becomes aroused, you mentioned that it goes from roughly about 3 inches on average to about 6 inches. That also correlates with the size of the flaccid penis to the size of the erect penis, going from about 3.6 inches flaccid to about 5.1 to 5.2 inches erect. Yeah. So you kind of see that these two things are actually made for each other.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think in general, like we're all we're designed, right? The biggest thing that we need to do as a species is have children, right? That is like sort of the goal of life, is to propagate our species. And so it would make sense that we would be designed to be able to do that easily.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.